Greetings and salutations, everyone! Welcome back to Speedpaint Podcast with yours truly. As you know, Nat has flown the coop to become a big girl in college, doing big girl stuff like meal planning and how to get my damn sheets straight on a loft bed. But that's besides the point. This episode actually comes from an assignment I did in my Creative Media Industries class, and honestly, it turned into something way more personal than I expected. Suddenly, I'm thinking about algorithms, monetization, ethics, and my entire creative life. So, tonight we'll be discussing all of that. Alright, let's get on to it. Let the speed paint commence. For context, my class was tasked with curating a music playlist for our classmates. When I started building my playlist, I immediately gravitated towards upbeat indie rock and pop rock songs with, strong bass lines. The kind of tracks that, I'd play during golden hour car rides, with windows down, warm light, and that feeling of being suspended between day and night. What surprised me was how quickly I blew past the recommended 5 songs. 5 turned into 6, and then 6 turned into 8, and then, I may have done double the amount of recommended songs, but it never hurts to recommend good songs. Well, at least I thought they were good songs. But okay, man, I put Life as a Highway, and nobody can say shit about that song. But it really was interesting because it made me realize how much emotional memory shapes attention. There's a reason why we like these songs, there's a reason why I liked these songs, and they all shared something that reminded you of a specific moment or feeling, and honestly, you didn't have to try that hard to find it. And then I looked at everyone else's playlists, and a lot of us actually had similar themes. Car rides, night out energies, and that kind of cinematic mood with a lot of pop, indie alternative music. Actually, a few people had quirky playlists. I remember looking through the lists of my classmates' playlists, and I saw this one kid who had, I kid you not, it was titled Chaotic ADHD Playlist, which honestly cracked me up, but overall there was a pattern. And when I looked through all of these similar themes, it made me think, do I stick with my original idea or do I follow with a trend? Which is a dilemma I think all creators face at some point, because you do want to stand out, but you also want to tap into what people already like. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized how much this assignment actually mirrors today's attention economy. If you're unfamiliar with what attention economy means, well, buckle up, buttercup, cause today we're gonna be learning a new vocab word. Wow, I just changed like 3 different accents for that bit. Holy moly. Well, anyways, to put it short, we live in a time where literally anyone can make content, which is awesome, but it also means that audiences' attention is more divided than ever, and it's literally impossible to be invested in everything. So how do creators stay afloat during this time of limited attention? Well, some creators who do well are the ones who lean into their strengths and brand themselves clearly. I think about some indie jazz musicians that I follow. They know their niche, and they stand out because they're not trying to be everything to everyone. Which I think is a very important thing that every creator should recognize, because when you're creating something, you're definitely not going to be for everyone who's watching. Everybody has their individual talents, gifts, whatever interests you. And I think it's important that you recognize what you're good at and what you love to do, and you hone in on that, because there's always going to be an audience for something. You just gotta find it. It really does make me sad when I see some creators push their audience's trust with branded sponsorships that are just painfully obvious money grabs. And I do understand that sponsorships or ad breaks are necessary and are a good way to keep content economically relevant. But when it becomes less about the original content, it feels like, chasing money over authenticity, and people can tell. What I do love, though, is how the networking side of the attention economy is changing. More creators are collaborating instead of competing, and there's like a sense of the we rise together type, energy, and I think it's honestly healthier for everyone because, especially on platforms such as like here on YouTube or Spotify or any accessible content creating platform, it's so important that we build that community because one, you get to know your fellow creators, and second of all, you never know where that connection might lead you, whether it be like a sponsorship or just networking or getting to know great people makes you feel less alone, and you know that the competition is not just people who want to look better or people who are better than you. Everybody's on their own journey, and I think that's a really surreal experience. Oh yeah, and speaking of monetization, as someone who runs a YouTube channel and is developing an indie animation series, I have thought a lot about monetization. I think, honestly, if you're starting out, things like Patreon, Ko-fi, or a small sponsorship here and there are good ways to dip your toes in. Where things start getting tricky, though, is crowdfunding. I've seen so many indie animation projects launch Kickstarters, and it always makes me think about, how limited consumer investment really is. Because, again, there is so much content, but there's only so much a consumer can invest in, literally, because you can't fund or pay for all the things that you want to see happen, as sad as it is. And so actually with Lucid City, I've had to ask myself, okay, how do I get this thing running without relying too heavily on crowdfunding? Because I know I'm just one fish in a huge lake. And honestly, I think the best early stage creators can do is focus in on their craft and build real relationships. Because money should come from a genuine connection and not feel like you're just wanting to talk to them to get $100,000 on your TV show or something. You want to back something up that feels human. And at the end of the day, I think creators have a responsibility to be truthful about, what they make, who it's for, and how they promote it. And it's okay if your content changes direction, but if it does change direction, your audience deserves transparency. One thing that really worried me, and still does worry me, is the false advertisement, especially content that looks kid-friendly but isn't. And algorithms don't always catch that, and that can put younger audiences at risks. And then there's copyright and demonetization, which is a whole nother headache, and as someone who wants to be legitimate on platforms, that stuff is always in the back of my mind. I think platforms do need to do better with copyright regulations and algorithm transparency, and creators shouldn't have to guess whether their work will be treated fairly, because at the end of the day, we all just want to create, maybe some for money, maybe some for not, but the people who do want to make this big deserve their rights. And I honestly think that platforms should just get it out of their head thinking that they own everything. I mean, they technically do, but, there are more ethical ways to go about things than just constantly changing the rules on content creators, and then when they say something, you just shove your boot in their mouth. My bad, guys. That was a little intense. As you know, outside of class, I run this YouTube channel where I do Speedpaint podcasts and animated specials with my 2D indie animation series, Lucid City. I'm actually planning to split my content, one channel for Lucid City and this one for the usual Nat yapping content and maybe some behind the scenes. I've been thinking seriously about how to market my work, how to build an audience, and how to eventually fund bigger projects. Seeing other indie creators turn passion projects into full-blown careers has been incredibly motivating, and it makes me want to approach my own work with intention, not just creatively, but strategically. So, what started as a simple playlist assignment ended up teaching me a lot about attention, creativity, and the realities of being a creator today. The attention economy can feel overwhelming, but it also opens doors for people like me. People building something from scratch, hoping to connect with others through art and storytelling. So, thanks for listening, stay tuned for more, and as always, we'll keep you updated here at Nat the Bat Story Stuff with more funny shenanigans. This is Nat the Bat, clocking out.